And so the friend had said, he goes, I went to visit him, and it was really tough. It was hard. He couldn't talk. He was just there. You know, I didn't know what to say. He goes, I was there about 5 minutes, and I left. And I said, well, you know, Bob, thanks for going and seeing him. I'm sure Tim appreciated that. And I thought about it. And then a couple weeks later, I'm still thinking about it. And then I came to Sherwood Free Methodist Church, and Pastor Dave, or I have to call him Mr. Mathis because he was my favorite government teacher.
The only.
I don't remember that. Pastor Dave shared with us his experience with his stroke and how many people had reached out to him and all of the comments and thoughts that he received that helped him that day. And then he, at least what I heard, is he gave some coaching advice for people and how to handle difficult situations. When you don't want to do something, you don't want to go see somebody, you don't have to have something planned. You need to pray about it, and you can go just sit with someone. And I was sitting right next to my beautiful wife, and she said, and I was sitting, and God put in my heart that day that I needed to go see Tim. So that was Sunday. Monday morning, I got up, didn't know which Bronson hospital he was in, didn't know if he was in Kalamazoo or Battle Creek. So I made a couple of phone calls, found out he was in Battle Creek. Still nervous, don't really want to go see him because I'm not looking forward to a difficult visit. And prayed about it at home, got in my truck, prayed about it all the way to Kalamazoo, Michigan, Brunson Hospital. Got to the parking lot, still feel nervous, anxious, prayed about it again. Started to feel a sense of calm and relief. I could hear Pastor Dave saying, you don't have to say anything, just be there. So, went up to the 4th floor and went to the nurse's station because I didn't know which room he was in, and introduced myself, said I'd like to see Tim. And she had a surprised look on her face. And she goes, oh, and her face kind of all of a sudden lit up. Didn't know what that meant. She took me to Tim's room. I went in, and he's awake. He's conversive.
Wow.
He, the expression on his face when he saw him, or saw me, still gets me emotional today. Long story short, we visited for about an hour. It was the same Tim that I had seen 10 years ago. Halfway through the visit, Tim's mom came in. I hadn't seen her in 40 years. Thought about her often, just one of those people that you just don't run across. And she came in, walked in, had tears in her eyes when she saw me. We had a hug. We visited maybe for a half an hour more. I felt peace in that room with my friend and his mom. And I want to thank Pastor Dave, and I want to thank our Lord for putting me to do that. When I left, I did feel a sense of peace. I felt like God was with all 3 of us and the staff there. So that's the story I wanted to share. Thank you for the opportunity, Darren.
Awesome.
So when we step out of our comfort zone, or as Peter stepped out of the boat, God helped him to stand on the water, right? So when we step out in faith, God provides. So great story. Thank you, Mike. Now, the other half of the power couple, Ned, is going to come and share some things about teaching.
You can share how you want.
So he set that up perfectly because my story relates to the passage of Peter stepping out of the boat. So I was happily a public school teacher for 30 years and then just retired a few years ago. For the first 20 years, I was primarily in the classroom at a high school in Vicksburg, Michigan, and I loved that work. I had worked very diligently to move from sort of the classroom, sometimes very challenging classrooms to classrooms where I really felt excited about what I was teaching and so forth. And I really did have sort of the dream schedule by the time I had gotten to that 20-year mark. But oddly enough, even though you get everything you want and aspire to, it doesn't always bring you the kind of happiness and contentment that you thought it would. And so though I have great passion and love for teachers and for the work, I was losing my passion and I was feeling not so happy about going to work. And so what I did is I do what I always do in those situations. I work harder, longer, and I keep striving, thinking it will get better. I just need to work my way through it. Well, it wasn't happening. And I kind of struggled for about 2 years. Just always headed to work, looking in the rearview mirror, going, oh, you know, where else would I be? What's next for me? I still have at least 10 more years. What am I going to do? And of course, at the time, I wasn't praying to God for His guidance. I was just sort of trying to row my own boat and navigate that on my own. And of course, that's always the first mistake. But I've had an opportunity to account the story that I'm going to tell you right now on many occasions in a public school setting, because often when you are in workshops with teachers, they'll ask you a question like, what brought you to teaching? What made you do a career change? Something like that. And so I'm able to share this story. So at that time, when I was feeling a little dispassionate about my work, working really hard, feeling tired, I was attending a church, and our pastor that Sunday was preaching about Peter being called to get out of the boat, you know, and that whole thing, and how he was hesitant, you know, he didn't want to go right away. He was kind of like, oh, I don't know, and Jesus is basically saying, hey, you want to have a metaphysical experience, man, you got to get out of the boat. And so the pastor at the time was kind of that kind of guy who presented it in that fashion. And so I listened, and he read the word, he talked about the experience, he put us in the boat with Peter, he discussed the storm, he discussed all of the things that were going on, he discussed what these people might have been feeling, and then seeing Jesus, and like, yeah man, I want to go for that, but I'm pretty comfortable here in the boat, I don't know what's going to happen if I jump out. So that day the pastor presented 2 questions to the congregation. One was, why are you afraid to get out of the boat? And then the second one was, do you trust Jesus to take care of it for you? He's got a plan, right?
Yeah.
And so I thought about that a lot. And I talked to Mike about it after church, and I said, you know, there's something about this passage that this story just keeps resonating with me. And I prayed about it, maybe for the first time, praying to say, God, you tell me, what am I supposed to be doing? Because I still love this profession. I still want to do something remarkable in it. I have 10 years to do something great. Show me the way. And I will tell you that within several months, God had presented to me some new opportunities, and they were still in the teaching field, and it was basically teaching teachers. So in that way, I could teach a lot more children in that I could help teach their teachers.
Amen.
And so, and it was with 9 school districts. So now it wasn't just one school district teaching these teachers, but it was 9 different school districts. So our God provides abundantly. And so my scarcity thinking it was foolish of me to think like that and to not let God take care of it. And so when people ask at those little seminars that you go to, you know, what made you go into being an educational consultant and teaching teachers, I tell this story, and I tell them how God moved me to do it. And I often have people come up to me afterwards and say, oh, you were very brave to tell that story, you know, in this public setting. And I said, well, it's the truth. And God will always reward the truth. I need God to take care of it. And like I said, many people have commented about it, asked me about it afterwards, and I thought that's maybe a way to make a connection with people. So,
Amen.
and thank you for giving us the opportunity to do this, dear.
And then to your passion, just
Yeah, absolutely. I was just totally restored after that. You know, you start a new job, and it was like, wow, this is amazing, this is fun. All those hours I could work towards something else, and it was great. All the way to the day that I retired, I just enjoyed it fully, and so God did provide for me, and has provided me to be able to retire as well. So I praise Him for that.
What a great story. God wanted you there, and you were willing. So we all have to be willing, whether He actually wants us to go there or not to go there. Sometimes He just wants us to be willing to do something different. So you've had some time to think about it. Anybody else? Has anybody come up with a story that you thought of how God has used you at work? Yes, Estelle. In the interest of everybody being able to hear, we thank you for coming forward, using the mic.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. So, a couple of weeks ago, I was baptized, and I shared my testimony of how God came to me in the darkest days, and how I came here, and how then I was only working as a waitress, and just trying to provide and get through it. Today, it's actually really interesting we have this sermon because today I start a new opportunity working third shift at a job coach in Howe, which is, I work for XOS, and I'm currently the first shift job coach there. It was a really hard decision because I love all of my operators. They have been so wonderful to me, and I've made so many great friends. And I actually got that job opportunity really struggling in the department I was in prior. I was in quality and doing GP12 and 100% in parts, and I was just really struggling to keep up. And one day they had this job opportunity posting on the wall for job coach, and I was like reading it, and I was like, I could do that. I've done something like that before, and but I was really unsure because I wanted to make sure I was doing it for the reasons. I was like, am I just mad at my situation now? Am I just really struggling? Am I really having a hard time? Do I really want for this? But I put my name on that paper, and that night I went home and prayed about it, and I said, I know I might have done this out of spite, Lord, and for that I'm sorry, but I gotta get out of there. I'm not happy, and I know you see it, and I know you see it in my heart. And I got the position, and it has been one of the greatest opportunities I've ever taken. I really enjoy what I love to do, and I'm really kind of sad to be leaving my home, but I'm really grateful for the opportunity to expand and go to Howe, which is a much bigger plant with more opportunity, and my boss really sees great potential in me. She says she wants me to keep pushing forward. She wants me to do production coordinators next, and then step up that as supervisor. So I came here today, lawfully on this beautiful day, for this beautiful sermon to, open my heart and pray to the Lord about, guiding me through this new experience, and my opportunity to hopefully continue to touch others' lives and help people on the floor. So, yeah.
God does use people to prod us. So like this person who sees potential in you and next steps, that's exciting. God uses people to tell us and point us in the right direction. Because I know I need that. Because it's not always clear what God wants sometimes. Anyone else? Yes. Mr. Mathis.
Or Dave,
Or Dave, or Hollywood
whoever Mike
Joe.
wants to call me.
Hollywood. Doo-doo-doo-doo-doo.
I appreciate that. I accept the Oscar.
Okay. I could have got my sundial to time you up here, but thank you for sharing.
I just want to tie into a couple of things as a pastor. First, Mike wrote to me right after the sermon, and you know, there's something about, not for me, but you see what God does. After church last week, Dottie and I went to a nursing home to visit Steve Batterson. I have a comment to make, and maybe something that you'll pick up, that Mike picked up about visiting. As you know, Steve Batterson has worked for years as a maintenance man at Union City. He was Citizen of the Year a couple of years ago. Everybody knows Steve. He has got diabetes real bad. They cut his leg off up to here, up to his knee. He's in a wheelchair. He's got a very, Dottie would tell you, he's got a very positive attitude. But the one thing that stuck out to me was, and I did get a chance to share Christ with him, and also somebody else that was sitting there, which was really rewarding. But the one thing I noticed was the first thing he talked about is people that visited him. Merv Miller, the principal at the high school, and me. That was it. Now everybody knows Steve, but like you, Mike, they have a problem going to visit. Because we're afraid. We're afraid we're going to walk in and see Steve with one leg, and it's going to bother us. You don't realize the benefit comes from the visit, and Mike explained that to you beautifully. And I hope that encourages many of you not only to visit Steve, but to visit other people that are not doing well. After I fell, Chris and Bobby came over last night. That was a real rewarding visit. They came over just to see how I was doing, to check if they were in the will. I like it whenever I say something like that. Dottie's back there going. And the other thing is, I want to talk about another thing. It's very small that you can do. It happened with Amy Brandon. She wrote me and said she was thinking of buying a Bible. And she mentioned a Bible that I thought that she shouldn't buy, but I just gave her some suggestions, and she bought that Bible. And then last week, she couldn't wait to come and show me the Bible. That sounds small, doesn't it? But isn't that rewarding to know that you have an impression on people? That they trust you? She also asked me about somebody she was listening to and asked me if I approved. I think those are the two good things in the last week that we all should hang our hats on and think about. And I hope this encourages all of you to do things like that. If you have a problem, reach out to somebody like me or some of your friends and have them talk to them. If you know somebody that's in a nursing home or the hospital, make this the week you go and visit them. And remember, the obligation isn't on you to do anything except to go. Just listen. They'll talk. All you have to say is, in fact, people asked me that on the way down here. They said, "Hey Dave, how's it going? How do you feel?" In fact, Annette sat next to me and said, "How's it going?" That was a great part of this church service, just having you come and sit and ask me. And she didn't have to say anything else. I went on like a ship's captain or something, didn't I? And she had to grab it onto the chair to get away from me. Okay, that's all I want to say.
I sense somebody's coming. Lenny Kelly.
Good morning, everyone. So, some of you may know, may not, I'm a licensed residential builder, been a contractor for 25 plus years, and about 20 years into that career, I started having some aches and pains, and I'm like, man, I gotta do something different. I'm not gonna be able to continue to do this for the next 20 years. So I explored the avenue of becoming a building inspector. And so many of you know that I became a building inspector, and I've been blessed in that trade. I've met a lot of wonderful people, had a lot of awesome experiences, and in doing so, I also we partnered with a company. We sold our business to a company, much larger company, and I've actually been blessed to move up through the ranks, and now I'm in an upper management position in that company. So I became a member a long time ago of an organization called Code Officials Conference of Michigan, and we have it's where we get all of our continuing education to renew our credentials as an inspector. And we have a fall conference every year, and there's about 300 building officials at this conference, and I've just gone there to receive my education. I know some of the board members work for our company, and a few years ago, one of the board members that worked for our company said, hey, I know that you're a Christ follower. We always say a blessing for our meal. Would you be willing to bless our meal? And I thought, oh, no way, I can't. There's 300 people here. I don't mind saying a blessing at a small gathering, but not in front of 300 people. 200 of them I don't even know. So I just said, I know there's other people they're probably more qualified to do that than me. So I declined, and about a half an hour, and I went by, and I just kept getting this prompting from the Lord, like, I want you to step out in faith. I want you to step out of the boat, be uncomfortable, and do this. So I went back to him and I said, listen, I've been struggling with the Lord about this, and I just can't struggle anymore. He wins every time. And so I said I'd be blessed to say the blessing. So I ended up saying the blessing. I was very nervous, but after I did it, I had this sense of relief, and just like I was really, the nervousness had gone, and I had many people come up to me and just say, wow, what an amazing prayer. And so I actually did it for a couple of years then, until that person that was on the board left his position, and I haven't been asked since then. But the point of my story is just I stepped out of the boat and was very uncomfortable, but it was so rewarding, and I'm so glad that I did that. And with my job now, I travel to about 6 different states, and I oversee about 300 employees, and I'm able to share my faith. That I take the management of the states out to lunch quite often, and I will ask them if it's okay if I pray for our meal. So I'm opening that door to let them know that I'm a follower of Christ, and I believe in Jesus as our Lord and Savior. And it's really prompted some interesting conversations, and I have people reach out to me to say, hey, I'm going through something, would you mind praying for me? So it's been a blessing, and I give God all the glory, because I'm pitiful myself, but through him I can do anything. So, thank you for listening.
Thank you, Estelle, Mike, Lynette, Glenn, for sharing. And Dave, I'm sorry, Pastor Dave, thank you for sharing, as always. I just wanted to say that the most impactful thing I believe that I learned about being a Christian and showing others is honestly in my failures. I'm not afraid. Before, Pastor, you said that today, I already thought, I only have 10 minutes to think about this. I'm sorry, I didn't read the email. I'm just saying. And I thought, honestly, for me, it's been transparency and sharing failures that I've had, and then how it's been handled from there, right? That it was prayed about, that it was, that I was surrounded by, in my lack of faith, maybe, friends and leaders who have prayed for me and shown me a different perspective on what I was going through. So I think, as a kid, I looked at Christianity as perfection, right? I just felt like I always had to get to this place where I was worthy of it. I'm not sure that in my adolescence I had this deep of a thought. It's in retrospect that I look at how I looked at my prayers, how I was praying to God, and how I saw God. And so I always felt like I had to be perfect. We have friends who don't just come out and say they believe in God, but when something goes wrong, they're calling us. They know where we stand. I'm not in a judgment place of them right now, but I'm just saying that I feel that sometimes it holds folks back from really getting deep and having a personal relationship with God because they think they have to be perfect. And I guess God has given me a gift of being able to share those imperfections very willingly and then to give the glory to God for a solution. It may not have been the solution I wanted. It might not have been all rosy, but I'm still able to say this is how it worked out and this is why, right? So, and even as deep as I am in my faith as we are, as a couple too, I still trip up. I still don't give it to God first and foremost. I still need to be reminded. It's like He's holding my hand the entire time, and sometimes I really get it, you know? I really get it, and sometimes I really don't get it, right? So this coming to church, getting involved in small group, getting involved in a study group, this kind of thing helps you keep your finger exactly on where you should be. And just suddenly, I'm not saying everything is rosy, like I said, but it will work out. And in your failures, you can show others that Christianity doesn't equal perfection, and perfection doesn't equal Christianity. You can still be a child of God, all in, fully in, and not be perfect. Thank you.
Good stuff. Thank you. Lots to unpack there, but thank you for sharing. Anyone else? Yeah, I mean.
And I certainly haven't been planning this at all either.
Oh, you haven't. You didn't get the email.
I have an email, but I
You're not okay.
I have been retired for 13 years, and I don't like to get in front of people. Well, about the time I was a third grader,
Hold
I
it
decided
closer.
I wanted to be a teacher.
Gotta hold it closer.
Sorry. About the time I was a third grader, I decided I wanted to be a teacher. But my parents didn't have a lot of money. I didn't think I'd be able to go to college. And so I kind of prepared to be a secretary or whatever. Well, due to their sacrifice, I was able to go. And I taught second grade mostly for 35 years. And I enjoyed it tremendously. I loved it the first 25. I didn't care how much I made, just let me go, you know. Anyway, I retired. And I guess it's because today is my grandson's 16th birthday and his grandparents' day. I realized that 35 years was preparing me, I think, for probably what I think is the most important job in my life, and that's being a grandparent. Because the 16-year-old is my son's son, and he has had probably the saddest life in a lot of ways. You know, nothing ever seems to go his way. You know, not good parenting, either side. And we've been really important in his life, you know, throughout time. Well, throughout school, he's had trouble. And he's, you know, I've been there, you know, by the time I retired, he was starting school. And so I'd always go up and put him on the bus and do different things with him. Anyway, long story short, he kind of slipped through the cracks for a while. He wasn't really doing his schoolwork. In middle school, he was a real mess. You know, he didn't have a lot of skills. He was really challenged. Well, here comes high school, and he realizes, I've got to try harder. But it's hard. I don't want to. And then about last year, his parents got a divorce, or were starting a divorce, and he and his dad came to live with us for a while. And it was 2 headstrong, 3. My son included. Headstrong people, beaten, because I was the easy one, he went along with it. But it was my job, they gave it all to me and says, well, you're the teacher, you make him do his work, you do everything with school, you go to his IEPs, all this kind of stuff. So I did, and I don't want to live it again, but it really worked out well. We beat our heads so often, sometimes we would sit for 4 hours. I know that doesn't sound like a good teaching skill to make your grandson sit at the dining room table for 4 hours because he refuses to do anything. He's not doing anything. And we went from angry outbursts to just not saying anything. And what I finally found out that, and mind you, I prayed about this constantly, and I still pray for him diligently, but I found out that, hey, while he's sitting here like this, not going to do anything. You can't make me, Grandma. Oh, okay. That's when I could do my prayer study. I could do my Bible study. I could pray for all the people I wanted to pray for. And, this year, well, we went through that the first semester last year, and then second semester, I said, well, you want to try this now on your own. So he did well. He passed everything with a C or better. And for him, that was wonderful. And now this year, Grandma, I'm going to need help in civics. And so every night he calls me if he has homework, and I go over to his house. Because he's now back. So, being a teacher has prepared me, and I enjoyed it. I had a tremendous time throughout. But you know what? I'm loving being a grandparent. And I just add one thing is that when he was expected, we were told he was, we were expecting him, or they were expecting him. My response wasn't something you wanted to say as a grandparent, was, oh no. And you know what? Oh, I've told him that story, and I told him, I said the best blessing I ever had was when they said you were coming. So the Lord doesn't make mistakes.
Amen.
Well, that just kind of brought Grandparents' Day and Labor Day all into one thing. I'd like Sandra to come and share. She'll be back to clean up. And she shared some good stuff as well. Thank you, Sandra.
Public service announcement. Those of you who know me know that I will cry, so just be ready if you need the Kleenex, because I'll get them as soon as I get back. So when I read the email, I was like, my true story comes back before I was a licensed nurse. I am a nurse by trade, and my home and my heart is in OB. I've been blessed to be able to welcome in so many blessings. It's a gift that I've done for over 30 years now. Now I'm not at the bedside as much. I am a director, so I have nurses that work for me as well as other people. But mine came from when I had one more year of nursing school to go, and I was working at Bronson Methodist on the cardiac unit. I had accepted Christ back when I was in 4th grade, but I had stepped away. I was not going to church. I was not following the Lord at all at that time. But back then, if you had a heart attack and you went to the hospital, you had very stepped care. Like the first day, you couldn't even feed yourself. And you didn't wash anything but your face. We washed everything else. And I was carrying, we had this patient on our unit that was a very difficult patient. She was abusive. As I tell the story usually, this is the story I tell of why I'm a nurse today, 30 plus years later. She would just as soon hit you as to say thank you. Everybody knew you stayed an arm's length away from Mary. Little old lady, she only stood about this tall, but she had a right hook that it gets you. So I had Mary on my team that day. I was taking care of Mary, and we walked our patients diligently back then once they progressed, but I was walking Mary, and then it was time to take her back and tuck her in for her nap, her afternoon nap. And I I get her all in bed, and she's looking at me. She's laying in bed, and she's, I'm like, what do you need, Mary? I'm leaning down there. And she just, I said, what do you need? I'm right here. Knowing not getting close enough. Well, I don't know why I did it, but I finally leaned down. I said, what do you need, Mary? And she lifted her head and she gave me a kiss on the cheek. Mary was abusive or struck out because in surgery she didn't get enough oxygen and she had a total personality change. But God let me reach her that day. And He has blessed me in my profession because I get to sit with people when they bring a new life in or when they lose that precious gift that they were going to have, which are some of the most precious times I can share. So now I steal from probably the best boss, earthly boss that I've had. Her motto, when I worked for her, has become my motto. There is not a person that comes into my office that I won't look at them and say, God and family first, the rest will fall in place. They should not feel bad to have to come to me and ask to have time to be with their family. And I just said, God and family first. And I have to be reminded of that sometimes myself. But he's blessed me. But Mary was my blessing that day. And I still, 35 years later, I still remember her. I still remember that face. And she's why I'm still a nurse today. And so I thank Him for putting Mary in my life. And give Him all the praise and the glory for being able to do the job that I do every day.
Right, well, I'm just going to float this out there. Best sermon ever. Well, thank you to those who have shared, and what a great reminder that God can use us and bless us exactly right where we're at, wherever we're at, whatever we're doing. All we have to do is be available and just see how He wants to use us to be His hands and His feet to minister to others with our own unique talents and abilities and skill sets. And I know I've told the story before, but that whole perfection thing that Kelly was talking about, I just thought, I ran from being a minister for a whole year because I was like, I can't do that. They have to know all the answers in the Bible. And I don't, and I still don't, and I thank God for Google. But, or actually GodQuestions.org, which is a great one. But when God wants you to do something, He's not going to let you go, like He didn't let Glenn go about praying. And that nudge. So you got to pay attention to that nudge. Because when He's nudging you, He's not going to let that nudge go until you do what He wants you to do. So, so I used one of the 3 sermons, so I got 2 next week. So, it's been a great time of sharing, and I believe that God has been in it, because I certainly didn't orchestrate or plan the whole thing. I just wanted to be obedient to what He wanted. So I believe that He was glorified in our time together, and we're closer together because of it. Will you please stand?